In the fall of 1833, a church member named Freeman Nickerson traveled from his home here in the village of South Dayton, New York, in the town of Perrysburg, to Kirtland, Ohio, where he invited Joseph Smith to return with him to visit members of his family living near here in Canada. Freeman wanted Joseph to preach the gospel to his sons Moses and Eliezer, who were living in a town called Mount Pleasant in Ontario. Joseph Smith had many pressing concerns. However, by the fall of 1833, despite having preached the gospel many times on his many travels, Joseph had never traveled solely for the purpose of proselytizing. Joseph decided to take Freeman up on his offer, and he and Sidney Rigdon left with Freeman on October 5th, 1833. They traveled first here to the Nickerson home in South Dayton. On the evening of October 12th, Joseph Smith said that he felt well, but that he had much anxiety about his family. That evening, Joseph and Sidney knelt in the Nickerson home and prayed together, asking for comfort and for reassurance that their families were well back in Kirtland. The Lord gave them a revelation, which is now the 100th section of the Doctrine and Covenants, one of the sections of the Doctrine and Covenants we're studying this week. In that revelation, the Lord assured them that their families were well cared for, that they were in His hands. He also assured them that an effectual door to the preaching of the gospel in this region would be opened as a result of their mission. On October 18th, Joseph and Sidney continued with Freeman to Mount Pleasant. There they preached the gospel in many villages in the area. On October 27th, 12 people, including Moses and Eliezer Nickerson, were baptized as members of the Church of Jesus Christ. After returning to Kirtland, Joseph and Sidney maintained a correspondence with members of the branch in Mount Pleasant. By the end of the year, 34 people had been baptized in that branch. As the Lord promised, Joseph and Sidney's preaching did in fact open an effectual door to this region. 3 years later, when Parley P. Pratt returned to that area as a missionary, he was given a letter of introduction from Moses Nickerson introducing Parley to a man named John Taylor. John Taylor was the head of a group of religious seekers near Toronto who would eventually join the church. John Taylor would later serve as an apostle, as a missionary to his own homeland of Great Britain, and eventually as president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.